Okay. I just wanted to put this video up to show the mentality of the long-term supporters. It's noticeable in all of them, but much more in the long-term supporters. Stephanie Hopkins has the Free Darlie YouTube channel, which is basically she's only made one or two videos that are actually hers. The rest of them are copies of the shows uh, that have been about Darlie for the last 10 years or so. And some of them's got 1 million views, but it's other people's stuff. She also shuts off her comments, so you can't get under there and argue with her. Uh, she's a friend of the family. She was going to visit Darlie back then, but as another, June 6th has come along, it marks 29 years. And here's the mentality of these people that support Darlie. If you can't see it, the mentality is sort of like Darlie's. Darlie's is me, 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 me. She started out the 911 call when someone came in here and stabbed me and my children. Me, 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 me. She held up court proceedings because she threw a fit about not being able to have her hair done. Me, 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 me. So here we have Stephanie Hopkins reminding us of June 6th, 29 years. 29 years. It really hurts my heart so bad for this entire family how long Texas has gone on with this, especially with fingerprints and DNA. I'm eternally grateful that the Innocence Project is handling this disaster of a case now. I long for the day Darlie Lynn is freed and back in her family's arms where she belongs. Then she puts a few pictures of Devin and Damon. But you notice how it's all about Darlie? It's all about Darlie. Few pictures, not a kind word. The kind words are for Darlie. Well, here's for Darlie. Oh, and yeah, these guys.
Um, I had another request. Several people wanted me to discuss the 911 call with Darlie's. Before I go any further in this, I just want to say that just listening to this call is incredibly graphic. If you've never heard it, some of the descriptions that I'll have to give are going to be even more graphic. I'm not going to show photos. Yes, I've seen photos. Yes, I have photos, but I'm not showing them. They're important. They do tell a story, but I just don't feel like autopsy photos are the type of thing that should be out there, blasted all over the internet for the whole world to see, especially when it's two little boys that were so horribly murdered.
Unless your name is Rich Prater and you're using those photos to show that Darlie's innocent. But it's okay. You don't see anybody up under, none of the supporters are up under his video going on and on and on about that, like they did to me when I put them up. But show her innocence, it's okay. Show her guilt, it's not.
Before I start on this, okay, let me just say that we did have an official transcript of the 911 call. When you pull up that transcript, they have a lot of it marked as unintelligible.
Yeah, that's background noise and stuff that they weren't sure what it was.
Which just basically means you can't understand it. But in listening to it, I could understand a lot of things that they were saying that were marked unintelligible. Ironically, there is a relatively small group of people that think she's guilty.
Relatively small group, she says. See how they minimize right there? There are more non-supporters of Darlie Routier than there are of those that support her. And we know this. Just go to any Darlie Routier video where they try to make her look innocent and look at the comment section.
A lot of grief.
That's why her comment section isn't turned on.
and they had a video of the 911 call, and even their transcript was more accurate than the one from the court. I mean, literally. And so that was astonishing in and of itself. So I decided to...
Well, it's, they played both of the 911 call recordings for the jury. The one that was the original call, and then the other one where the white noise was taken out by Barry Dickey. So both of them were available for the jury.
Sit down and do a new 911 transcript, and I included little segments of Darren talking and some other family members talking, explaining the scene so that you can get an idea of not just hearing the 911 call, not just hearing what they're saying, but actually understanding what they were faced with and what they were having to look at and see and deal with. Hold on a second, let me turn these notifications down, I forgot. Okay, there we go. At any rate, so
Now see, here's something I want to clear up right away. To me, personally, Stephanie Hopkins is not one of those nasty ass supporters. Even though she don't like me, and she's made comments about me, and she'll be under places making comments, I never have considered her one of the nasty supporters. Don't support it. I consider her one of the most uninformed. There was a time that I was arguing with her, and I like her. She seems like a nice lady. But there was a time that I was arguing with her about the scene when they first got called out to the scene, and I literally had to school her that no, William Gorsuch was not a first responding RPD officer. His name was David Waddell. Gorsuch was the witness who saw that Waddell didn't let anybody run out of the house. And she didn't know this small detail. I mean, it's a big detail. She didn't know this, and she had been going to see Darlie at the time, proclaiming her innocence. She didn't know that. That pissed her off when I had to do that. But let's listen to what she's got to say.
I ended up using both. I used the court official transcript, which had a lot of blanks in it, and then I used the other one that the other people had made, and I went off of both of them. And if it was something that was marked unintelligible, I listened to it over and over and over again to see if I could understand it. That's what you're supposed to do when you're doing transcription. I've done transcription for 2 different companies.
When you have to listen to it over and over and over and over again to be able to understand it, then it's unintelligible.
It's on my resume. One of them was law-related type stuff. I can't really give examples. It's all confidential, but I did have to pass.
She used to be a paralegal.
An FBI background check and tests to make sure I could do it and everything. And I will say that if I had ever turned in a transcript like the state's transcript of this 911 call, it wouldn't have been accepted. They would have had to send it to some...
Well, what's Darlie say about the 911 call? She's saying that's not what I said, or that's not what happened? Is anybody that's involved in the scene that you hear their voices on there, are they coming back and saying, no, this is not the way it happened? No, they're not.
Somebody else to do it on a rushed basis, and then they would have docked my pay. You are not supposed to put unintelligible unless it is just absolutely unintelligible.
And if you've had to listen to it over and over and over again, that means it's unintelligible. That means you would have heard it correctly the first time, crystal clear.
Literally. And in this case, there was a lot that could be made out that they were not putting in there. Maybe some little notes here just to say, I don't like listening to this call. It makes me incredibly emotional. I took about a full week when I was making this video and listening to little segments of it over and over and over again to try to understand everything I possibly could. Cried a river.
You notice how she says, try to understand? That's what they mean by the word unintelligible.
For the entire...
They can't say it sounds like it says this.
Week. I listened to it just this morning one more time before I went live, hoping I could get the emotions out of me and I could be a little bit more objective in this video. I make no promises. I'll do my best. But anyway, that's what actually drove me to start doing this particular transcription. I am going to, yes, Donna, the issue about the knife, that's one of the reasons I'm doing this, and I was just going to say that. it's a lot like the silly string video. They would take that little 3-second snippet where Darlie managed to smile and spread the silly string and show that.
It's more than 3 seconds. See, why are you minimizing again? You're minimizing what it was. It was way more than 3 seconds. It's several minutes that they filmed of her smiling and putting her head on Dana's shoulder and going, "They should be here." That was way more than a few seconds. But let's go ahead and minimize. We got to minimize when it looks bad and maximize to make things look worse than what they really are. That's what you have to do. You have to be a master of that to be a Darlie Routier supporter.
And she's this vain, horrible person that, didn't care about her kids. That's really inappropriate to take any full-length audio or video and then just take snippets out of it and use them to warp them to your own opinion.
No, I don't take what she did at the silly string video as and it has anything to do with her motherhood, because no doubt there was a long time where she loved and doted over Devin and Damon while the money was coming in. She loved and doted over everything. Her friends, the kids in the neighborhood. She was just happy-go-lucky when that money was coming in. But then when the money started to fail, it's when she would retreat to her room. She couldn't go out and shop till she dropped because Darren had her car. His wasn't fixed. Stuff like that. There's no doubt that she was a doting mom at one time.
And we'll get to that about the whole knife thing. But yes, when we're doing this, for one thing, I noticed earlier that it's when I hit play and I'm trying to show the words on the screen, sometimes they do blur a little bit. I'm going to do the best I can to get it as clear as I possibly can for you guys. I'll be hitting pause here and there to explain various things. I will put the link to the original video down in the comments so that you can all see that. But in a nutshell, overall, Darlie and Darren were both completely frantic during this call. Completely and utterly frantic.
And you would be frantic either way. Had she been a real victim of an intruder, she would be frantic. Had she just got done killing her 2 kids and the police are there now, she'd be frantic. The adrenaline that comes over a person after they have killed, through studies, through what I've listened to, many, many serial killer interviews, many, many court dockets, the adrenaline gets them frantic, excited.
I've never listened to this call and heard what I thought was guilt. I've always listened to this call and heard 2 frantic parents desperately trying to...
I have to admit, even as a supporter, I felt like the call was a little bit strange and it didn't show her innocent. But the more you study that phone call, you'll see that she's actively staging with that call all through it. Somebody came in here, stabbed me and my children. I was sleeping. Who could do this? Who could do this? We got to find out who did this, Darren. Maybe we could have got the prints. He went out the garage. I was sleeping. I chased him. All indicators that she didn't do shit.
Save their kids' lives. Darlie
made no attempt to save Devin or Damon's lives. Darren did.
Basically calls and tells them that somebody came into her house and stabbed her and her kids. She gives them the address, and then she's trying to help her kids, and she's interacting with Darren trying to help her kids.
No, she's not. She's not interacting with Darren at all. You don't hear her talking to Darren. Waddell said she stood there. Colby said she stood there. Byford said she stood there. They all said she stood there. But, of course, they're all fucking lying. Right?
The 911 dispatcher actually gets kind of irritated at her at one point. Is telling her to calm down and tell her what's going on.
Not being irritated at her at all. Doris Trammell kept saying, I need you to calm down. I need you to let me know what's going on, because that's what they need you to do. Doris Trammell didn't seem irritated whatsoever. See, this woman didn't notice guilt in Darlie's speaking, but she found something wrong with the dispatcher. She seemed kind of irritated with her. You see how that you have to have this kind of line of thinking. It's poor Darlie, and everyone's lying except for Darlie. To be a supporter, you have to score A's across the board and knowing how to do that.
And it's only then that she actually stops and really does give any more detail to the 911 dispatcher.
Yeah, after the detailer, after the 911 is going down, I need you to calm down. I need you to tell me what's going on. And she goes, and it's only then that she calms down and tells her, what's going on. But she started it out with, she was irritated with her. And then she told her to calm down. And then it was only then that Darlie calmed down.
Because that was not her primary concern. I mean, I guess she felt like as a mother, I've given them my address. Surely they'll come here. And in the meantime, I'm trying to save my kids, especially since
she wasn't trying to do anything. Listen to the thinking on these people.
It was taking them so long to get there. But, it's not until the very end that she does mention the knife and fingerprints, and she did not say anything about her fingerprints being on that knife. I hear that all the time. She was unduly concerned with her prints being on the knife.
Yeah, we think that she was concerned with her prints being on the knife because I already picked it up and touched it. That's Darlie's implying that she touched it and ruined the prints. She said, I touched it. I already picked it up. I touched it. That's her way of saying, well, fuck, I picked it up and I got my prints on top of their prints. That's the way we think of that.
That's not even what was said. She says, but we could have gotten the prints, maybe. Okay.
Except for my prints are on top of them and they fucked them all up. That's what she's talking about.
And the reason that was said was because she was speaking to the police officer who was already in her house. In the meantime, 911 dispatch did not even realize that a police officer was already on scene.
She didn't realize, Doris Trammell did not realize that David Waddell was not on the scene because he didn't, when he came from over the church where he was at, he heard there was a stabbing and he did not call in and say, hey, I'm headed over there. He just went, which to me is good on his point. That's why she didn't know he was in there.
Officer Waddell is the one who arrived first on the scene. And I have a whole other video on issues with him, but he was...
I bet you do.
Not even supposed to respond to the scene. He showed up because he was close by. So
what do you mean he's not supposed to? Right? When you hear a stabbing and you're a cop and you're just sitting there going through your dailies, waiting for something to happen, basically, or waiting for a car to speed by on Darlie where he was, and you hear that there's been a stabbing right around the road, you are supposed to fucking go there. If he wouldn't have went there, they'd have been like, well, where the fuck were you when the fire codes went off, dude? You was right down the street.
So especially as it gets towards the end of this 911 call, it is just complete and utter chaos. There are places where Darlie's talking to 911 dispatch trying to get them to answer her, and they're not answering her because they're doing their radio thing. And then there's places towards the end where Darlie is actually talking to a police officer that is already in the house, and that's Officer Waddell, and 911 dispatch doesn't realize that he's even in there. To their knowledge, the first police officer was just then arriving at the front door.
Walling, yeah.
So there's a lot of confusion. And when she mentioned that about the knives, that she was talking to Officer Waddell. There was already a police...
Well, you need to let me know where there's a crime scene that went perfectly smoothly with no chaos. They're trying to get help to this crime scene. Let me know where there's one where it just went perfectly smooth. Everything just fell right in line. Let me know.
Police officer in the house. She was talking to Officer Waddell, and 911 dispatch assumed that she was talking to them. And so,
doesn't matter. She still said it.
So that's what even caused that to be brought up. But there was a lot of things taken out of context. And another thing I wanted to mention here, the state enhanced the audio. And I've always found that to be not warranted.
Yeah, of course you would. What they did was they took out some of the background noise. They didn't remove any words. They took out some of the background noise so you could hear what people were saying. They played both of them in court.
There again, doing some of these transcripts that I've done in the past, if it's something like somebody was wearing a wire or a bug or whatever you want to call it, yeah, there were times I had to enhance the audio to be able to make out what everybody was saying. But
you didn't like them doing it in Darlie's case, but there were times that you had to do it. This is the mentality that you have to be a Darlie Routier supporter. Now, I thought there was something off with them in seeing that thing, but when I did stuff, I had to enhance things. Get out of here, man. Really?
in this case, you could hear Darlie and you could hear the 911 dispatcher just fine. So there was no reason for the state to quote unquote enhance that audio to begin with.
Yes, there was, because they wanted to hear Waddell saying, "Get a rag." There was a reason for them to enhance it. Why would how do you determine that, right? You said you've had to enhance stuff. They wanted to hear clearly.
What they did by doing that was they actually muffled out all of the background audio. And in this case, a lot of that was Darren speaking.
No, they didn't take out any words, anything that was spoken. They didn't take it out.
And after Officer Waddell showed up, him speaking as well.
You couldn't hear him that much, but you could hear him say, "Get a rag." I don't think they took it all out. What you don't hear on the 911 call is Waddell walking right in there and throwing up in the bathroom. You don't hear that, which you supporters have said that he's done, and he did not do that. You don't hear that in the 911 call at all.
And I think
because it didn't happen. It didn't happen.
There's reasons that they did that, which I'll get into at another time.
Why can't you get into that right now? You guys always have this, well, another time. It's because you make accusations, and you hope people forget about it, and that another time never comes.
But I will hit pause here and there and try to discuss a couple of things. If questions come up, ask them. I'm going to try to pay attention into the live feed here. And this is just something I think needs to be done, but I'm not really looking forward to it. And I'm going to try to stay as calm as I can, but just bear with me if I get emotional or something. I'm fixing to hit play on the video and we'll start. It begins with Darren, and these are little excerpts taken from various interviews that he has done. All of them are on that YouTube channel for Darlie if you'd like to see them all. They're from various dates, various years. And it's hot in Texas, just let me say that. I've got fans going in here like crazy, and it's still 83 degrees in here, so that's why my hair's blowing all over the place, and you hear the background noise. But here we go. I'm going to turn this camera around.
Maybe you need to enhance that background noise just a little bit so they can hear you better, right? To muffle the sound of that fan, that way they can hear you a little bit better, right? Wouldn't that work?
And we'll hit play. See how this goes.
I went back upstairs, and it was probably, 11 o'clock or so, after the news probably, and climbed into bed and went to sleep.
That's the interview where he says, I heard her saying, "Darren, Darren, 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 Darren."
And about
Oh, she cut that part out. It looks like it.
2:30, first thing that I remember is hearing a real light glass break. Just a... First thing I hear is this real light glass break. It seems like the very first thing that I remember hearing is a glass
Almost word for word.
break. And then this screaming, this huge, loud screaming. Next thing I hear is Darlie screaming. Screaming as loud as any person you've ever heard. When I came down the stairs, I passed her. She was screaming, "Devin, Devin, 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 Devin." Just freaking. But the first thing that I heard was Darlie screaming, "Devin, Devin, 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 Devin." She was just going over and over and over again. It jarred me, and, I jumped up. I run down the stairs.
She cut that part out of the wrong man. Where he's saying, "Darren, Darren, 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 Darren." Now here's the unedited clip. She took this out because she didn't want us to hear this. She also changed the journal entries around a little bit too. She didn't want us to hear this.
I lay down on the floor, And me and Darlie talked, about different things. So I went back upstairs, and it was probably, 11 o'clock or so. It's after the news, probably. And climbed into bed and went to sleep. And the next thing I hear was this glass break, like, but far away. And then I hear Darlie just screaming, Darren, 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 Darren. I mean, just freaking out. I mean,
yeah, Stephanie Hopkins cut that part out because she didn't want us to, realize there's been times where he says she was saying Darren, 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 and times that she said Devin, 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 Devin. She took that out of her video. She took that clip out. This back just a little bit to be sure that I've got this right. I don't want to accuse her of something that she didn't do, but it looks like she took that out.
Screaming, Devin, 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 Devin. I mean, she was just going over and over and over again. It jarred me, and, I jumped up.
Yep, she cut that part out. She sure did. Because he had just said, it jarred me. You heard him say, it jarred me.
Way. And then I hear Darlie just screaming, Darren, 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 Darren. I mean, just freaking out. I mean, it jarred me, and, I jumped up.
See how she cut that part out about him saying Darren, 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 Darren? That was pretty slick.
Run down the stairs as fast as I can. I looked up. I'm yelling at her. What the hell happened? I jumped up. I run down the stairs screaming, Devin, 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 Devin. I mean, she was just going over and over and over again. It jarred me, and, I jumped.
She cut it out. She cut that part out.
Up. I run down the stairs as fast as I can. I looked up. I'm yelling at her. What the hell happened? She grabs the phone. She's running back and forth. She's screaming and she's hollering. And that 911 tape is exactly what I heard. I mean, she went straight to the phone, straight to the sink, get the towels, and I was straight to Devin. And when I get over to Devin.
You notice what Darren said? He said that 911 tape is exactly what I heard. So how is Stephanie Hopkins hearing something different? He said that 911 tape is exactly what I heard.
Phone, straight to the sink, get the towels, and I was straight to Devin. And when I get over to Devin, happened, she grabs the phone, she's running back and forth, she's screaming and she's hollering, and that 911 tape is exactly what I heard.
That 911 call is exactly what I heard. So anything Stephanie Hopkins got to say after this about the 911 call, she can eat a dick.
I mean, she went straight to the phone, straight to the sink, get the towels, and I was straight to Devin. And when I get over to Devin, he's laying on the floor face up, and he has these huge 2 gashes in the front and the top of his chest.
Okay. Now, that's very important. Again, I've seen the autopsy photos, and when Darren says that, he is not exaggerating at all. That's one of the reasons that they think that there were 2 different knives used, and a lot of people think there were 2 different intruders.
You can't even put one in there, Steph.
I do think that there was definitely 2 intruders there. The knife that was used on Darlie and Damon was the kitchen knife that was found that was actually from Darlie's house. When you look at Damon's wounds, are we back?
Yeah.
Had an internet connection. If you look at Damon's wounds, had he lived, his scars would have been a lot like the one on Darlie's forearm. His wounds closed very nicely and evenly, for lack of a better phrase. I know that sounds terrible, but I don't know how else to describe it. Devin, on the other hand, when they tried to close the wounds to even show you the length of the stab or the incision, it doesn't even completely close. Whatever knife was used on Devin, I'm guessing, like they have said, I understand why now since I've seen the photos, but we're assuming that it was probably one of those double-edged knives.
Well, you would assume that. The difference that we have between Devin and Damon is that Devin was stabbed in the front while he was laying on his back. Damon was stabbed in his back as he was trying to get away, I believe, in my opinion. So Damon didn't have the chance to turn around and kick at Darlie. That's why the wounds are different. Let's say that he's taking one in the chest, and at the same time he's kicking. If that knife is in his chest for that second and he's kicking, it's going to move that wound, make it bigger, because he's moving around.
It was thicker in the middle and wider because, number one, none of Devin's blood was ever found on the knife that was used on Damon and Darlie, and I don't think they'll ever find his blood on there because I don't think that knife was used on him.
What she's talking about is the 4 points that they tested on the knife. That's all they were required to test. And that's so we don't know if Devin's blood would have been on it or not. They have retested it since then. The thing that I am, this is what I know about blood on blood. If Devin's been stabbed a few times, and then Devin's blood is on that knife, and then they go and stab Damon with it, the blood from Devin that was on the knife on the upswing is going to come off. And if they do it, there'll be a little mixed. But if he had 6 wounds, so the more that she took Devin's blood and inserted it into Damon's body, the more it was going to clean the knife off, and you'd have Damon's blood.
But when they try to close his wounds, they don't even close. When he was stabbed, it did so much damage to his tissue and the bones and stuff in his chest that they don't even completely close. And so when Darren's saying that he's looking down and he had 2 gaping holes, he's not exaggerating at all. And putting yourself in the position of either one of these parents, I just can't even imagine what that would be like. But we'll go ahead and continue now.
And I see that the coffee table bent over. He has no life in his face.
What?
You notice how it's me first. Me and my children. They just stabbed me. She came first. She was the one that was up in a well and uninjured enough that, where she could talk to 911. The call is about her boys. They should be my little boys. They just stabbed my little boys. Yeah, they got me too, but my little boys. What? Who did? My little boy is dying now. Okay. She gets to herself first and then that.
Who did? Hang on.
I don't know what's wrong with the connection here.
Hang on, ma'am. Oh, no medical emergency. This is the one Eagle Grove. Ma'am, I'm trying to get an ambulance to you. Hang on a minute. My babies are dying. What's going on?
Now it's her babies. She realizes that these are being recorded. She watched true crime shows. Back then, Law and Order specifically.
What's going on, ma'am?
And I'm here.
Let's go back to this. I don't even know who did it, Darren. What we don't know is the look that Darren just gave her. He's looking at her in an accusing way as he's on his way over to help his son. That's my opinion.
And I'm hearing what's happened, and she's screaming into the phone, "Oh my God, my babies have been killed! Get here! I need an ambulance! And I'm just hearing this hysterical, going on, this hysteria just happening, and I'm sitting here thinking, "Oh my God, I've got to get air into this baby's body."
Because Darlie ain't doing anything. Oh my God, I've got to do it. That 911 tape is exactly what I heard.
And I go down to blow into his mouth to give him CPR, cock his head back, and as soon as I did, blood just spewed out of his chest.
Jesus Christ.
I didn't know what to do, you know? I mean, you know, you're just freaking. I mean, just trying to do everything that you can. I tried to revive him. I gave him CPR. I blew into his mouth. As soon as I blew into his mouth, blood came out of his chest. And it was just a complete hole. I put my hands over it, trying to hold the holes closed. And then I look up and down.
He doesn't say anything about Darlie trying to hold it closed. See, supporters will tell you that Darlie got down there with him and attempted to put that wound back together.
Damon's laying over 12 feet away from him up against the floor, and he's just laying there, and he's not, you know, he's moving a little bit.
And you can
Notice he didn't say anything about Darlie trying to help hold that wound together, like they tell us today that Darlie tried to help hold that wound together.
hear the reaction from both Darlie and Darren when that happens, when he tries to give him CPR and ends up basically getting sprayed by his son's own blood. And it's coming up right here.
Linda Vista and Willowbrook, attention 901, medical emergency. Maybe possible stabbing, 5801, Eagle Drive.
I would agree with her. That's probably about the time.
About 238, South Linda Vista and Willowbrook, coming out 232.
And there she was just asking, what do we do, what do we do? And wasn't able to get an answer from dispatch.
But she literally does not ask, what do we do? She's not saying, what do we do, what do we do? She's saying, oh my God, oh my God. And she didn't ask the dispatcher what to do. But this Darlie supporter says, oh, well, Darlie was asking what to do, and the dispatcher wouldn't even answer her. But the answer's right here.
Oh my God!
It doesn't mean, what do we do?
801 Eagle Drive, 5801 Eagle Drive, hysterical female on the phone. Says her child has been stabbed. Ma'am?
Now, oh my God, when are they going to get here? The reason that this is not it's unintelligible, is because some people hear, oh my God, did Blake come in here?
Child has been stabbed. Ma'am, I need you to calm down and talk to me. Child has been stabbed. Ma'am?
That's why that they took the background noise out so you could hear him saying that. You couldn't hear it in the other one.
I need you to calm down and talk to me.
She's not irritated with her. She just said, I need you to calm down and talk to me.
So there, you know, is the first one. She's saying, I need you to calm down and talk to me. As if any parent could actually calm down looking at that and trying to do what they...
Well, what's she supposed to say to her, Steph? Go ahead and keep hollering so I can't get the information I need to you need, when your kids are hurt, you need to stay as calm as you can in order to help them. All right, so what else is Doris Trammell supposed to tell Darlie? All right, she said, okay, go ahead, freak out, and, you know, I'll get back with you when you're done.
They were doing. And she responds, well, didn't you get my address? I mean, she wasn't concerned about telling them every single solitary thing that happened at this point. She just was trying to save her kid's life and get the ambulance there as soon as possible.
Yeah. They already knew. The lady had been saying 5801 Eagle 3 or 4 different times.
5801 Eagle? Ma'am.
Oh, Darren, I don't know who it was. We've got to find out who it was. That means I didn't do it. Don't look at me. We got to find out who did it because it wasn't me.
Listen.
And it's the second time that Darren looks at her like he's accusing her. And the second time she responds to that look.
Listen to me. I need you to... Oh, my God. Can you take the radio clip? Yes. Ma'am, I need you to talk to me. Ma'am, I can't understand you. You're going to guys to slow down, calm down, and talk to me.
It's what the 911 dispatcher is supposed to do. It's supposed to talk you down.
What?
So she's again telling her to calm down, slow down, and talk to her. And she says, I'm talking to my babies. They're dying. And she
She's asking her babies who would do this?
was just previously talking to Damon. Devin was mostly being attended to by Darren, from what I understand, as he was certified in CPR. And Darlie was, for the most part, tending to Damon. And
No, Darlie doesn't even testify that she was tending to Damon. I put a towel on his back.
also going back and forth and re-wetting towels to get to Darren during this process.
Back and forth, but we only see footprints coming away from the sink, not towards them.
So right here is the very first explanation that we start getting of what happened to the dispatch.
What is going on?
We believe he was stabbed laying down, and he was stabbed in the back. That's the younger of the two of them, okay?
Neither of the two of them.
He obviously gets up and puts his hand on his mommy. That's how Darlie says she wakes up.
What is going on?
Somebody came in while I was sleeping. They didn't do it. Me and my little boys were sleeping. Then she finally remembers her little boys. Some man came in and stabbed my babies, stabbed me. I woke up. I was frightened. He ran out through the garage, threw the knife down. My babies are dying. But just look at the way she says this. While I was sleeping.
Me and my little boys were sleeping downstairs. Stabbed my babies. Stabbed me. I woke up. I was frightened. He ran out to the garage, threw the knife down. My babies are dying. They're dead. Oh my God.
Okay, and we can point out that there, that little blibbit where she says that she was frightened, that is a big thing of contention as well. Some people think that she said she was fighting there, and then that goes towards, gosh, well, if she fought with this man, why doesn't she remember him? Well, some people think that she said
Believe he was stabbed laying down, and he was stabbed in the back. That's the younger of the two of them, okay? He obviously gets up and puts his hand on his mommy. That's how Darlie says she wakes up.
What is going on? Somebody came in while I was sleeping. Me and my little boys were sleeping downstairs. Stabbed my babies. Stabbed me. I woke up. I was frightened. He ran out to the garage.
I was fighting. I don't care what nobody says. Let's do this. Sounds like I was fighting to me. Excuse me. Sorry.
He ran out to the garage, threw the knife down. My babies are dying. They're dead. Oh my God.
Okay, and we can point out that there, that little blibbit where she says that she was frightened, that is a big thing of contention as well. Some people think that she said she was fighting there, and then that goes towards, gosh, well, if she fought with this man, why doesn't she remember him? Why can't she describe him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody hears something different. To me, it sounds like frightened there. It definitely sounds like frightened to me. And I will say that it sounds a lot more like frightened on the original audio prior to the state enhancing it. And I don't know if I was clear on that, but this transcription here was done with the original audio. This is not the state enhanced version where they muffled out the background noise. This is the original one because I wanted to hear as much as I could of what was going on with Darren and what was going on when Officer Waddell entered the house.
Down the Hopkins. Oh my God! Good. Just hit down one. Hold on, honey. Hold on. Hold on. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Ma'am, who's there with you? Ma'am.
Who's there with you? Karen.
Is there anybody in the house besides you and your children? My husband, he just went downstairs. He's helping me.
Now look at what she says here. She says, is there anybody in the house with you, right? No, my husband. He just ran downstairs. He's helping me. She wasn't doing anything. She was helping him. He's helping me.
Oh my God. Okay, how many little boys? Is it 2 boys? 3 of them. Okay, listen to me. Calm down. Go ahead.
And that was the first mention she made of herself. That little comment there, I feel really bad, I think I'm dying. That is the one time that I actually...
In the 911 call, dispatcher told her, go ahead.
actually hear Darlie make any reference to herself or her own health whatsoever in this call. And you also have to keep in mind that she was bleeding profusely. Most of that blood on that crime scene was Darlie's. She almost bled to death. Darren
did not almost bleed to death.
Was expecting her to bleed to death. Darlie thought that she was going to die, and that's also why she kept asking about...
In another video, Darren, he does an interview, he says, well, she wasn't worried about herself. She didn't even know she was hurt. Darren says that exactly.
You know, we got to catch him. I don't know who did it, et cetera, et cetera. She didn't think she was going to make it. She was bleeding just profusely, and that's why she was concerned about, you know, catching who did it. I mean, if you had seen this happen to your little boys and you thought you were going to die, I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to say to your husband. Let me see what Melissa's saying here. Frightened, not fighting. Yeah, that's what I hear. I hear frightened, and I don't know if they altered them or if it was just during the course of their enhancing it, if that somehow altered the sound, you know, not purposely on their end or what, but it does sound like frightened to me.
5801 Eagle Drive, 5801.
And look how many times she's asking. Pay attention during this video, how many times she's pleading for help. When are they going to get here? When are they going to get here? It's taking them for...
Well, she knows that they're on the way and that they will be there. She also realizes that the call is being recorded. So sure, you could say, when are they going to be here? When are they going to be here? Because she's concerned for her kids. But on the other end of it, we can say she's saying that to the staging.
Forever, etc.
Eagle Drive, going to be on 7. When are they going to be here? Ma'am, they're on their way.
See, she's asking questions that Doris Trammell can't answer. When are they going to be here? Wouldn't that be funny if Doris Trammell said 2:32 and 26 seconds? They'll be there. Staging to me.
Oh my God. 235. Ma'am, how old are your boys? What? How old are your boys? No. Okay. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh shit.
Okay, now just right here, I want to interject this. People talk about lying and saying things incorrectly. Notice right here, Darlie said that Devin was 7. Devin was not 7. He was 6 years old. He was a few days shy of being 7. And to me, that just goes to show how set he was on being 7 and how anxious they were for his birthday party. That's all they'd been talking about was his birthday party coming up, and he was going to be 7.
Oh, ma'am, can you...
If you're this close to your next birthday, a few days, that you know, a lot of people say, well, that he's 7.
Is your name Darlie? Yes. Is your husband's name Darren? Yes, please. God, they're taking forever. There's nobody in your head that was... You don't know who did this?
Okay, now that's important. That's incredibly important for a lot of reasons.
For one, she said they.
Officer Waddell says in repeated interviews that Darlie was just standing around holding a rag up to her own neck. She wasn't really concerned about her boys in any way, shape, or form. He had specifically had to ask her to help the boys, and she just stood there and did nothing. That's obviously a lie. He also claims that he ran into Darren in the front yard, supposedly going across the street to go get that nurse. I think her name was Karen. But if that's the case and Darren is across the street, why do we hear Darren standing right there next to...
Because Waddell walked him back into the scene. That's why.
Waddell. If Darren was across the street, there would be no need to even say...
Because he wasn't across the street. If you read the testimony, Waddell says that he walked him back into the house. And that Darren was working on Devin for a while before they went and got Karen. When Karen came over to the house, Waddell and Walling were upstairs searching the house.
Look for a rag. If she was already holding a rag up against her neck, not worried about her babies, there would be no reason to say look for a rag. And furthermore, he's specifically telling her, lay down, okay, just sit down. They were now noticing Darlie's slit throat. Okay, I see Rhonda. Let's play devil's advocate. How did she that the intruder threw the knife down but yet can't describe the attacker? Because it was dark. It was 2:30, between 2:30 and 2:35 in the morning. They had the lights off. They had been asleep. The television was on, so there was just a little bit of light, just enough light to kind of silhouette the man. And he was already in the kitchen area.
See how she... No, he ran out. Then she corrected herself. They ran out.
And I guess he turned around and started walking out of the kitchen back door whenever he saw her getting up to come after him and Damon tagging along behind her.
As you know, they said, well, she should have been administering help to her little boys rather than concerned about, oh my God, my prints are on the knife.
I was there, remember? I mean, there was 21 towels. 5 of them had blood on them. 3 of them were on one boy and 2 were on the other. She's got the phone in her hand, all in a 5-minute period.
He just lied his ass off about the towels.
I mean, what do you want her to do? I'm doing CPR. I've been certified for 7 years to do CPR. I know how to do it. She is getting help. You know, she got all those policemen, all those fire trucks, and the emergency crews.
But she's injured herself also. Did you even know that there was a gash on her throat?
No, I didn't know until they brought her to the door that she was even cut, bleeding, or anything.
You said you didn't realize she was hurt until you came back in the house?
Right. Is that
Hey, sorry about that. For whatever reason.
Okay, he said he didn't realize that she was hurt until he came back in the house, right? So if she was up next to him helping with Devin, you know, because he came back in the house with Karen, if she was really that close to him, wouldn't he notice the blood?
Reason I guess Facebook servers are having issues today. I've noticed that it's disconnected a couple of times during this call, so I just went ahead and started a new one when it kicked me off. I'm going to basically resume where we were at.
right? Is that true? Yeah.
What did you say to her then? You
I made her
remember?
a promise. When I helped her get on the gurney, I made her a promise that I would.
He said he helped her get on the gurney, Rich. That means Darren was outside on the porch when they put her on the gurney. He didn't notice that she passed out either, Rich.
Find out who did this.
She asked you for that?
Right. Yeah.
She said-
Because she didn't think she's going to make it.
Really? And then
What did she say to you that you promised her that? What did she say? Do you remember her words?
she said, I want you to promise me that you find out who did this and take care of it.
And again, I don't think that that's an unreasonable thing to say or think. I know for a fact if I was in that situation, even if it was a niece or a nephew, I'd absolutely be concerned about making sure that whoever did it was caught. So now, at this point, here's what's happening. We've got Officer Waddell has just appeared on the scene. He's told Darlie to lay down, okay, just sit down. He was noticing her slit throat. Darren was noticing her slit throat. That's why you hear Darren say, look for a rag. They've been using wet rags on the boys. So, same principle applies here. He was saying, look for a rag so that they could
I don't think that was Darren that said look for a rag. I think it was Waddell.
put it against Darlie's throat. So she obviously was not just standing around with a rag to her throat, not concerned about her babies or...
Yes, she was, because the other people testified that she was doing the same thing, medics and other officers.
Darren nor Waddell would have made that statement. Also important to note going forward with this, remember that the 911 dispatcher does not realize that Waddell is even there on the scene. He was not called and dispatched to go to that scene. There was another officer that was supposed to be going. Waddell was just incredibly close by. I think they said he was 1.9 miles away, something like that. And so he showed up on the scene, and that was a complete and utter surprise to the dispatch, who did not seem to realize that he was there, even through the complete ending of this call. And that's when things get a little bit chaotic. But here we go. Darlie's talking to Waddell, and many times throughout the dispatch is assuming she's talking to her.
Okay, so look, this is another part I want to draw attention to. Go look out in the garage. Look out in the garage. They left the knife. Go look out in the garage. The whole point of her hollering Devin, 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 and saying go look out in the garage, go look out in the garage, in my opinion, is to keep people from working on Damon. She knew that he wasn't quite dead yet. Darren had to step over him to get to Devin. And then she's trying to lead this officer out of the area too.
They left the knife. There's a knife. Don't touch anything. I already touched it. Picked it up.
And that was the first time that was said. There again, she was talking to Waddell. She was showing him, look, the knife was laying over there.
She mentioned it first. It doesn't matter who she mentioned it to.
And dispatch assumed she was talking to her. And so she tells
It doesn't matter. She's mentioned a knife.
her, there's a knife, don't touch anything. She says, I already touched it and picked it up. And then 911 says, who's out there? Is anybody out there? And I guess she's on the radio, and Darlie thinks she's talking to her. I don't know. And then she starts talking to her about a police officer being at the front door, and she needs to let the police officer in. There was already a police officer in there, though, and they didn't even realize that.
Who's out there? Anybody out there? I don't know. Okay, ma'am, listen. There's a police officer at your front door. Is your front door unlocked? Yes, ma'am. Where's the ambulance? They're grieving. If they don't get here, they're going to be dead. My God, they're dead.
And again, all she's worried about is when are they going to get here? Hurry, please, hurry. I mean, she just got done telling her, there's an officer at your front door, let the officer in. But, police officer wasn't what Darlie was concerned about. She was concerned about saving her baby's life. And, again, it's, yes, ma'am, but where's the ambulance? My God, they're taking forever. They're barely breathing. If they don't get here, they're going to be dead. Please hurry, please hurry. If she had just attacked both of those little boys, why on earth would she be begging and pleading for the ambulance to get there?
Beg and plead. They're going to get there as quick as they can, no matter if she's asking when are they going to be here or not.
And possibly save Damon's life, who could have then said, hey, it was mommy who stabbed me.
Devin.
That makes no sense whatsoever. Furthermore, why would Damon have even been comfortable with her treating him and holding him and comforting him if he was
She wasn't. And listen to what Jack Colby said about that.
the one that had hurt her? I mean, he was able to move around initially. He was stabbed in the back, and his lungs would have been, it's my hand shaking, I'm sorry, his lungs would have been filling up with blood in a nutshell. I know that sounds terrible, and it is terrible, but he was able to move around initially. He went to his mom, he woke her up, he even followed behind her initially as she started approaching the kitchen, and, she told him, no, wait here. And then, of course, as time went on, it got harder and harder for him to communicate. But if she had hurt him, you would think that there would be some sign of him trying to grapple onto his daddy or crawling over to his...
So we always thought that he was trying to get upstairs to his dad. We don't know that he actually got up and went behind her and she told him to turn around. We don't know that. We know what she said that.
Daddy or something. But there isn't any of that. He's completely okay with his mom taking care of him. And
no, he's not.
To me, it sounds like you can hear her absolutely pleading for them to hurry up and get here and save their lives. If she had attacked them, why would she want their...
You think they went any faster because she was asking them to hurry up? They were going as fast as they can already.
lives saved to begin with? I mean, she could have waited a little bit longer to make the phone call and make sure Damon was dead or going to die. It makes no sense.
Can't wait that long because she knows that the time of death will be something they can establish.
82 out on Eagle. Oh my God, hurry. 82, you out. Oh my God. Oh my God, why would they do this? What did he say? Why would they do this? Okay, listen, ma'am. You need to let the officers in the front door, okay? What? Ma'am? What? You need to let the police officers in the front door. This knife was laying over there, and I already picked it up. Okay, it's all right. It's okay.
And again, she was talking to the police officer. She was not talking to the dispatch about the knife. She was talking to the police officer. And if you look as we go on here, that's another thing. She never said anything about her prints being on the knife. It was her knife. I would think that her prints probably would be on it. What she was concerned about was that she might have messed up fingerprints that an intruder would have left. Why people make such a big deal out about this is beyond me. I mean, we have a fingerprint that was left on the scene and a combination of the victim's blood. So we have the intruder's fingerprint, at least one of the intruder's fingerprint. If they put it in APHIS, maybe we could get a match, or at least in the future save somebody else's lives. But anyway.
Part of the criticism and part of what was used at trial against your wife was the 911 call.
Right.
The investigators said that she was unduly concerned with prints on the knife. She said to the operator, the dispatcher, that the intruder came in, that he had dropped a knife, and the dispatcher said, don't pick it up, and she said, I already did.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
That's what I would say if somebody said, don't pick it up. She asked her a question, and she was responding.
Boy, there's some more accusing by Darren. If you listen to her tone right here, you can tell that, if it's like Jeopardy. The question would be, for $1,000 on the Daily Double, who did this? What happened in here? Somebody who did it, intentionally walked in here and did it, Darren. Notice how her tone changed right there? And then she said, there's nothing touched. Well, who gives a fuck? And how do you know?
Okay, ma'am.
And again, with all this talk about her staging a crime scene, even Darlie is saying there's nothing touched.
See how she skipped over that?
And again,
See how mad she was at him? She even used his first name.
Okay,
Then back to
ma'am.
And again, you know, with all this talk about her staging a crime scene, even Darlie is saying there's nothing touched. There's nothing touched. You know, why would they do this? Why would they do this? I mean, anyway.
Ma'am, is the police officer there? Okay, go talk to him, okay? Yes, that's okay. Go talk to him, baby. Okay?
And I saw blood everywhere. I mean, you look at the crime scene photos and you know, in evidence, the carpet is blood red from one end to the house to the other. And mostly all of Darlie's. I mean, Darlie almost bled to death.
Probably 30 or 40 people around, and there were lights and stuff on the house, and the yellow tape was going up, and there were police officers running in and out of the house.
Contaminating everything, all the evidence on the floor, adding footprints to it, smashing blood spots on the floor.
And all of that was very true. I've heard that from numerous sources. You know, they just were not accustomed to that kind of crime. And when you have that many people coming in and out and trampling all over a crime
wasn't that many people, and they weren't trampling. They had to get there.
scene, you know, I mean, you know, for after that, for James Caan and people like that to actually look at the blood droplets on the floor and try to make some sort of conclusion off of those, when we know for a fact that there were people walking through the house trampling all over them, is pretty negligent. And I think, you know, most of this is just a summary. I can read it out loud. Devin was pronounced dead on the scene. Damon died while being transported. Darlie Lynn was rushed to emergency surgery, removed a necklace that was embedded in her neck wound, stopped the bleeding and closed her own wounds. She was then sent to ICU for observation, and they did begin questioning her
ICU for observation
immediately after that, which is also a little bit strange. I mean, I know that they'd want to get information as soon as possible. That does make sense, of course, but, you know, I've had surgery. I think a lot of us out there have, and I can't imagine trying to give a coherent statement when I've just woken up from general anesthesia. And we go on, and I'm just updating that she was subsequently tried and convicted in the capital murder of the younger son, Damon. As of the date of the video, she's still on death row proclaiming her innocence. They all still believe that she's innocent, and that's including her now ex, you know, side of the family. Cyrilda, Darren, they all support her still to this day.
they support Drake.